Okay, hello everybody. Welcome to Korean Atlanta Mentorship. So in this video, we're going to go over our updated velocity banking spreadsheet. And I promise this isn't one of those classic college textbook scams. And if you don't know what I mean by that, is that every couple of years or so, colleges or college textbook publishers, they always try to invalidate the previous year's textbook, even though the curriculum isn't changed, and say, hey, this is an updated textbook with a special code that you need to log into your college textbook portal to access the quizzes, so that they make sales like every year of new textbooks rather than because they don't like the used textbook market. I promise this is not that, right? This is actually a updated velocity banking spreadsheet. And so what do I mean by that? So you know how I always go to like calculator.net and let me just go in here. So give me 1 second. So whoopsie. Uh, Let me do this. Okay. So you know how like I always go into calculator.net to figure out like the loan amortizations? Well, you don't even have to go to calculator.net. You could actually do it in Excel. And I actually learned most of this stuff from a guy named Jeff Armstrong. So he teaches a class called Seller Finance Notes on Renatus, and you could take a look. But long story short, there's these functions here where you could actually determine the payment amount and the latest balance if you have a couple of things. So, for example, you have the original balance, the interest rate, and the loan term. And then if you see right here, there's this payment function in Excel, right? Let's go ahead and double click it. And it tells you what you enter, like the interest rate, the number of periods, the present value, meaning what's the original balance. And then if you want to calculate the latest balance, right, then you take a look here, you put in the interest rate, the number of periods, and then the payment amount. And then it'll tell you the latest balance. So for example, let's say like you've made 0 payments, all right, well then the loan balance is 15,000. But if you make 1 payment, then the loan balance is 14,979, right? So again, if you don't want to go to calculator.net, right? Actually, yeah, if you don't want to go to calculator.net and figure out the loan amortization schedules, you can do it directly within Excel, and all you need is the payment function right here. So PMT, and if you know how to just input these three correctly, then you'll get the correct payment amount, and then the latest balance, right? So rate, number of periods, and then the payment amount. Um, then you can do it pretty easily, right? You just need to put in the correct formulas. So let's go ahead and repeat one of our velocity banking scenarios from previously to and use our new updated spreadsheet, right? And I promise this doesn't invalidate the previous spreadsheet. In fact, I would actually recommend you not do it this way because I think a lot of people are much more visual learners. So if they look at the calculator.net website and see like the amortization schedule, kind of like right here, they see, oh, like we're at month, 6, and then this is the current balance at month 6, rather than just typing it in. So I feel like this is why, like when you're in elementary school, teachers were always like, use the calculator as last resort because you actually want to understand what it is that you're doing. I would argue the same thing here too. Like it's okay to use this, but if you want to just directly plug in the numbers in Excel, right? Then and you want to figure out, oh, after like 20 payments for this loan, what's that balance? It's 12 grand, right? So yeah, let's go ahead and get started. So what is velocity banking? All it is a debt payoff strategy using a line of credit as your main tool or your main operating account. And you only need two things to do this. Number one is a budget. Number two is a line of credit as your main operating account. So you have your budget here, income, expenses, leftover savings, and then what you do is you do an expense breakdown and list every single debt that you have. So credit card one, credit card two, student loans, loan one, two, because most people don't have like one student loans. Usually they're split into like three or four, especially get like government loans. One could be like Parent Plus, another one could be like subsidized federal loan, ABC. I think when I was paying off my student loans, I had like three of them, different interest rates. I think they were all the same term for 10 years. And I was just too scared to look at them because, when I was at college, ironically, I didn't learn anything about finance, which is kind of sad. Even though I was what was my major? Mathematics/economics. I don't even remember what I learned there, unfortunately. And then you have an auto loan and a mortgage, and then other food, gas, insurance, etc. So, what is the point of velocity banking? Well, the point of this is that it's a debt payoff plan, right? So, our whole goal is to get every single debt that we have, make sure that they go to zero, and then all of our other stuff that is not tied to debt, like our general expenses for every single month, we still got to pay these, so this never goes to zero, right? And then number two is we need a line of credit as our main operating account. So if you have a credit card, that's a line of credit, right? It's one type of line of credit, but there's home equity and personal. And all line of credit is a financial tool where you can borrow money, pay it back, and use it over and over again, right? And you want to get as much credit as possible before you ever need it, because again, I've said this so many times, but it's worth repeating. Banks don't lend money to people who need it, right? And if you have a home, so for example, we have a mortgage here, and you have something called equity in it, you could offer it as collateral, right? It's almost like I don't want to say a sacrifice because it's not, but you want to offer collateral, and then they'll give you better terms and rates. So, for example, let's say if you try to get a personal line of credit that has no collateral tied to it, meaning it's unsecured, they might say, okay, we'll give you up to 15,000 and 15% interest rate. But if you had a home equity line of credit, they might say 10%, and they might also say, oh, we'll offer you up to 30,000 limit, right? So again, it's like a credit card, but you can use it to pay anything. Home loans, student loans, mortgages, anything. That's the beauty of the home equity line of credit. Okay? So now let's go ahead and do this. Again, we'll just repeat what we've always been doing. And how much debt are we paying off? Let's go ahead and count this. So 10, 5, so let's do this. 10 plus 5 plus 15 plus 19 plus 22 plus 200. 271K. So our goal is to pay off 271K. Okay? So now let's go and do this. So we're going to have the same income, but with velocity banking, our savings will go to zero, and we're going to have the same expenses initially. So let's copy that. But instead of savings, we're going to have something called cash flow. So our whole goal is to dump our entire paycheck into our debt. Our entire paycheck. Now, I know we're doing pretty good here because most people don't have $1,500 in savings. In fact, I was watching videos, the politicians, because we're coming up with elections, they're talking about home ownership, right? And they know most people can't afford homes. So that's why that's a huge button right now. And most people can't save enough for a down payment. And I remember a long time ago, well, a couple months ago, or was it a year ago, I saw a video about like how a couple waited 10 years for a down payment on a home. 10 years, right? So a lot of people are broke, but we'll just say we're at here again. Every to each their own, because again, some people might think this is impossible. Yet I was able to pay off a mortgage into 3 years, and I know that's not typical either, right? But what we're trying to do is with zero savings help pay off our debt, and we have to make our line of credit our main operating account. And what we're trying to do is increase this cash flow number in the very beginning, right? And so let's go ahead and increase this cash flow number by moving these two credit cards, which is 15 grand. So you see the 10 and the 5 right here, 15 grand into the home equity line of credit 15000, right? And so now what's the actual velocity banking strategy? Well, it is, and let me just kind of do it here, paycheck into line of credit, and then expenses out of the line of credit, right? That's the actual velocity banking strategy. And before you do that, you just have to determine what order you do pay these debts off, right? And so the easiest way to determine the order that you pay these debts off is using something called the cash flow index. I'm not going to go over that right now because it's 10:35 p.m. and I'm kind of sleepy, but just look up Google cash flow index, and that's an easy way to ranking to tell you, what order do you pay off the debt, right? So we're going to start off with the credit cards first, move 15 grand right here because the debt payoff order is incredibly important. So let's go ahead and do this. I2 plus 1 is the next month. and then the next month's balance is the previous month's balance plus the previous month's interest minus, let's go here. Actually, this is the wrong cash flow because when you move that debt, and so let me just hold off here. Guess what happens to these payments? 0, 0. So we went from 1,500 to $2,000 of cash flow in one swoop on day one by using this velocity banking strategy, right? By making our line of credit as our main operating account. So let's go ahead and do this right here. And so we're going to calculate the next month's balance plus the previous month's balance minus the cash flow at hand, so 2019.9. Now, I know some people are saying, well, why don't you just use like the variable, like the G2, H2 for the cash flow? The problem is that if we use an actual variable for that cash flow, like C5, and this cash flow updates, it's going to update in the previous entries, and we don't want that. So that's why we use a fixed number for our cash flow, because month one cash flow is always going to be 2019.9. However, if when the cash flow does update and we use a variable, well, it's going to update for all the balance line rows where it's going to make a mess, right? So let's go ahead and do that. And then what we're going to do is we're going to take the average daily balance, so we did average right here. That's the estimate, multiply by the interest rate, 0.1, and then divide by 12, right? Average daily balance, and so 0.1 divided by 12, that's the interest rate divided by 12, because the interest rate is annual, you gotta divide by 12 to get the monthly interest. And then what we do is we just copy and paste these formulas. All right, so we did that, and then we can see in month 8, oh my goodness, it's all paid off. Month 8, did you get that? Month 8. So now what we write here is our milestones, 8 months, and then 15K. Mind blown. So easy, right? And so now what we do is we just kind of pay off these loans. And so what we're going to do is actually start off with this auto loan first. And again, look up cash flow index. But think of it like this. Would you pay $22,000 to get $430 back, or $19,000 to get $200 back, or $195? I'm going to pay the $22,000 because if I pay this off quickly, I'm going to get so much more bang for my buck. Now, here's the updated part, or the updated spreadsheet is this loan balance calculator, right? The loan balance calculator. So if we take a look, go back and forth, right? We go back and forth. And when we take a look here, we see that it took us 8 months to pay off these 2 credit cards. So we have to know the updated balance of the loan at month 8, right? So at month 8, we just type in month 8, we see that the balance is 19 grand. 19 grand 461.96. Okay? So this is will make it easier to figure out what the balance of the loans are. So what you can do here is you can just take this balance, and if you want to just dump it into the line of credit, you just go here and then dump that 18 grand. Oh, I screwed up. So whoopsie, 19 grand. So 19, why is this screwing up? So okay, I'm gonna copy, and then now, I think if it's because it's a formula, I might not even paste it. Yeah, I can't do it. So let's just do this. I'm gonna copy this, and then we're gonna paste the actual value, and then I'm gonna recopy it, right? So I go in here, and then bam, okay. Oh, are you kidding me? 19462. Let me just do that. So plus 19462. Bam. Okay. So 461.96. Oh, this is giving me such a headache. I should practice this, but whatever. 96. Okay. So now, what's giving me this warning for? Ignore error. All right. So now, now what we have to do is consider that, hey, because we transferred this auto loan, now this goes to 0. And so what's our cash flow now? It's 2450.35. 2450.35. So let's go here and now update our cash flow to 2450.35, right? And then just copy it for the rest of the entries that we have. and see when we go to 0. And then it turns out in month 16, we go to 0. And now we got to write down here that it took us 16 months to pay off 22 plus 15. So what's 22 plus 15? That's 37K of debt, right? So 37K of debt. And then now we go ahead and tackle the student loans. I'm going to tackle student loan number 1 because it's actually a lower balance and higher interest rate. So let's go ahead and do that. But we got to figure out the balance at 16 months. So let's go to our new tab of student loan 1, 16 months. What's the current balance? 13367.24, right? So because I'm having problems copying the formula, um, I'll just manually type it in for now. Next time I'll figure it out how to copy it. So 13367.24. So let's go ahead and move that here. So that would be plus 13367.24, right? And then, why is it giving me inconsistent? That's so weird. That's so weird. I just actually, the formula in no way. Yep, that's right. So ignore error, but I gotta reset the error checking options. Okay, now we did that. So guess what? So this goes to 0, and then now it's 2605.81. So 2605.81. Okay, and now what we do is just copy and paste, right? And then bam, 22 months, we're good. So let's go ahead and do this with this next one. So this is going to be, hold on, I'm going a little bit too crazy here. So 22 months. So 22 months, and then it's 37 plus, hold on, 37 plus 15. So 52K. Okay, so now we paid that off in 22 months, so we got to figure out what the balance of student loan 2 is at 22 months. And then we just do is put a 22 right here, and it's about 16 grand, 16098.25. So let's go ahead and move that there. So 16098.25. Okay. Wow, did it give me the error again? It did. Let's ignore that error for now. And then, because we just simply moved that loan, that student loan, guess what? This payment goes to 0. And now we're at a 2800 cash flow, so 2800.9. So let's go ahead and do this. Minus 2800.9. And then we're going to do that. And so now it's paid off in 28 months. And we're good. So now 28 months. And let me copy this. It doesn't need to be highlighted. So 28 months. And then so it's now 52 plus 19. So 71K. Right? So 71K. All right. So now we have done that. And now the last thing we got to do is the mortgage. So one of the things that you'll notice is that when we're dealing with this, right, the line of credit that we only have available is $30,000. Now, if we've been using it and we've been paying off all our debts, guess what? Banks want to lend to us because banks like to lend to people who don't need the money. And so some people are like, "Oh my goodness, I paid off the debt. Why would I ever, get more credit?" Because banks, you're the perfect prime candidate for credit, and you always want to get it before you need it because the more credit you have, the more you're going to be able to handle any bumps in the road with your cash flow. Okay, doesn't mean go ahead and use it wildly, but you don't want to. You want to get as much credit as possible to handle the bumps in the road with your cash flow. Okay, so now what we got to do is we got to tackle the mortgage. So we might say, hey, if we get a credit limit increase to, let's say, 50,000, that's great. I would definitely get that, but we don't really need more credit at this point. What we have to consider is that when we're at this stage where the mortgage is the very last thing that we pay off, we have two ways of directly overpaying the mortgage. One is making extra payments. So let's say you have $2,800 in your savings account and that's what you estimate should be in your savings, well, you could just directly pay from that savings into the mortgage, or you could do it with the help of a line of credit. Now, I'll probably make another video going into extra payments versus using the line of credit or using quote chunking. But one of the things I want to mention is that you don't want to put the whole thing into a line of credit. In fact, I was reading actually the inventor of velocity banking. His name's Harj Gill, and he basically wrote a book about how to quote pay off your home years earlier, and talked about how you shouldn't replace your mortgage with the line of credit either. Right? I put that in the YouTube community feed. And so, I got to make another video about that. But what I'm saying is that um, putting your entire mortgage into a line of credit for most people is not going to be a good idea. So we just either do extra payments or what we do or what we call chunking, meaning we just incrementally move the loan into a line of credit and rinse and repeat over and over again. So for example, let's say that we move $6,000 into the line of credit. So then we just move $6,000 of the principal to the line of credit, and then we just keep doing it over and over again. So here we just do another 6,000, or it could be 10,000. It's not going to make much of a difference here. But then let me highlight that, and then we rinse and repeat. And so every 2 months or so we can do it that way. Or another way that we can just, let's say you don't want to think about it, right? You might have to pay a little bit more. So let's say, we do 20,000 or $15,000 chunks. How long is it going to take to pay that off, right? So it'll take us about 6 months, and then we repeat with 15 grand chunks over and over again. So luckily we have a velocity banking calculator for that. Let's just figure out what the current loan balance is at 28 months. So if we go in here and then type in 28, the current balance is 194,000, and we have a velocity banking calculator to help us determine what the loan payoff is. So let me just kind of quickly get that up on screen. So where is it? Right there. Hold on. There we go. Okay. So basically we just kind of put in the numbers here: original balance, current balance, interest rate, blah 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 blah. Let's do this. Let's erase this, and then what the original balance was 200,000, and then the current balance, let me just take a quick peek, is 194,032.04. Okay. So then the interest rate would be 6%. Okay. And payment amount, why does this look off? Oh, I'm sorry, it's D5. I screwed this up. I was trying to redo this. Oh, let's ignore the error. And let me actually save this. Okay, so 1191.1, and then what is the monthly income? So the monthly income is, what was it, 5,500. 5,500. And then our living expenses is everything except for the loan we're trying to pay off. So in the previous spreadsheet, I put our general living expenses about 1,500 a month. So we'll just put 1,500 here. And the thing I really want to emphasize again is that if you put in, okay, so let's put a 10% interest rate, your entire line of credit in a mortgage, it's not going to be as efficient. It's just either doing direct extra payments or doing the chunking or splitting up the loan into many pieces method, right? So, all right, so let's just go ahead. And before I actually get into this, just quickly mention this calculator was created by Renatus, which is where I originally learned velocity banking from. So just a plug for Renatus. But if you want this calculator, you can, if you enroll as a student, they don't only teach velocity banking, they teach real estate investing and financial literacy as well. So making a plug for it. Another thing, full disclosure, I do make commission off of Renatus sales. So let's go ahead and plug this in, 194,032.04, meaning I replace my entire mortgage with the line of credit. So you might be looking at this as like, ooh, that's pretty good, because we pay it off in 5.3 years and we save a lot of interest, $147,000 of interest. Okay, Well, let's just do, I don't know, $6,000 little chunk payments instead of replacing our entire mortgage with a line of credit. And then you can see it's 4.7, 29 grand, right? So you don't want to leave money on the table just because we have to, the internet says replace your mortgage with a line of credit, replace regardless of the interest rate. No, if there's a substantial interest rate difference, the chunking method is always a better deal. Or at least I can't even think of why you would want to do that, right? It even says in Harge Gill's book, the original, the OG inventor of velocity banking, from his book How to Own Your Home Free and Clear Earlier or something like that, from Australia. So let me write this down one more time. So 29 grand, 4.7 years. If we reverse that, it's 5.3 and 56. So it's almost like half. We're paying more than half in interest if we replace our entire mortgage line of credit. So we definitely don't want to do that. All right, so now let's go ahead and type this in, 4.7 years. Sweet. And then I am going to change this up. So now, so it's 4.7, actually let's do this, equals 28 divided by 12 plus 4.7, and that's 7.03 years. So 7.03 years, and then we are 271K debt free. You see how much easier that was without having to go to calculator.net, although it'll probably be much better for your educational purposes to go to calculator.net. But all I have to do is just now type in the month here, and then it'll tell me the balance at that month. So month 10 or month 11, 12. I mean, think about this. If how much is how many months are in 5 years? So 5 times 12, I think that's 60. You see how it goes to zero because it's the last payment, right? So again, I'll probably using this update this from now on when it comes to amortized loans. So, but I might, in other videos, I might just go into calculator.net so you can visually see, even though many times I go so quickly, you're like, what happened? What happened? Please slow down. And I'm like, dude, if I slow down, we're going to be here for over an hour. In fact, let me take a look at the runtime right now. It's 27 minutes, so I'm still here for a long time. Okay, well, that's it for today, everybody. This is Mentorship. Have a great day.